If you and your family eat more than one or two of those annoying little 6-ounce yogurt containers per day, and if you have enough skill in the kitchen to boil an egg, then you should seriously consider making your own. Here's why. If you can boil an egg, you can make yogurt. You can make yogurt for the price of milk. This means you can make yogurt for about 1/4 of the price you buy yogurt, or maybe even much less if you're buying those annoying little 6-ounce containers. Your yogurt will be much fresher and much tastier than commercial yogurt. You can make it to taste, and you can make many kinds of yogurt. Once you're set up to make yogurt, you can make yogurt out of whole milk, low-fat milk, half and half, or even heavy cream. You can make yogurt with goat's milk, sheep's milk, even buffalo's milk, if you can get it. This video is about making yogurt at home in the simplest and easiest way. There are dozens of yogurt making instructional videos on YouTube, but they seem to be after all sorts of things, not including simplicity and efficiency. So if you want to make yogurt the way Grandma made it, or the way they made it on the farm, if that farm happens to be in Romania in 1882, then you should visit those other instructional videos. But if you accept the 21st century, however grudgingly, and you're hoping to fit yogurt making into your already busy life, then this video is for you. Yogurt is what you get when certain milk-loving bacteria eat milk sugar and release milk acid that congeals the milk proteins into yogurt. Therefore, making yogurt is all about the milk and the bugs. Bugs is the term of endearment I use for the family of adorable little lactobacilli, of which there are about 8 members. Since yogurt is only milk and bugs, different milks make radically different yogurts, and different bugs make radically different yogurts. For example, there is no mistaking goat milk yogurt for cow milk yogurt. I love them both, but they are very different. Similarly, different bugs make radically different yogurts. For example, some people make extravagant health claims for yogurt made with the acid-loving milk bug. These claims might be perfectly true, but I find acidophilus yogurt inedible unless you add a lot of sugar to it. Making yogurt is all about your choice of bugs, your choice of milk, and how to prepare the mix. The subject of this video is how to do that in the simplest, easiest way. The incubator, also known as a yogurt maker, is central to the process, and you must get one. Look, it's up to you whether you make yogurt or not. But once you decide to make yogurt, you must accept the fact that making yogurt is not about what you want. It is all about what the bugs want. The bugs want 110 degrees Fahrenheit, period. Much over 110, and you will kill the bugs. Much below 110, and the process takes more time to make less good yogurt. The bugs want 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and you must give it to them. And the most consistent, most reliable way to do that is with an incubator. Anything else is a less good way that produces a less good yogurt, if you even produce yogurt. The good news is that the incubator is cheap. At the time of this video, the one I recommend costs less than $70. It will last forever, and it will pay for itself in a month or two, depending on how much yogurt you eat. I have no connection whatever with the Yogurmate company beyond being a completely satisfied customer for the past 30 years. Of course, if Yogurmate likes this video and wants to make a contribution, I will gladly acknowledge that fact. The incubator I have been using very happily for 30 years is this machine made by Yogurmate. Note that I'm not just showing you the brand. I am showing you the exact machine I have been using for 30 years. And so far as I can tell, it will keep on working for another 30 years, maybe forever. It is the perfect machine, you see. It has no moving parts to wear out, not even a switch. It's on when you plug it in, and when you unplug it, it's off. And when it's on, it knows exactly what to do, since the whole process is not about what you want, it's about what the bugs want. So the machine has no controls for you to mess with and ruin the batch. There are other incubators out there, and you might prefer one of them, but mainly I find them a nuisance. For example, the machine that makes yogurt in 6 little cups is something I would instantly throw out the window out of sheer annoyance. If you're going to make yogurt at all, 1/2 gallon at a time is the only way to go, truly. Besides the yogurt maker, you will need 2 or 3 pots, 1 pot to hold the milk, 1 pot for a double boiler, and 1 pot for a double cooler. You could use the double boiler as a double cooler, but that would be more fuss. A long-handled spoon, preferably of metal, may not be essential, but it is handy. To make yogurt, you need milk, culture, and powdered milk, which is optional. As hinted at earlier, you can use any kind of milk you like. I find some kinds of milk more suitable to some purposes than to others. For example, I have happily used low-fat yogurt for cooking, for salad dressings, for making various kinds of yogurt confections, like mixing with jams or fruits, or making drinks like the Indian lassi. However, I find low-fat yogurt impossible to eat plain. I like to eat plain yogurt, and for that, only whole milk will do. In fact, for eating plain yogurt, I avoid even the high-fat milks, like half and half. Half and half is great as a sometime treat, but for day in, day out eating, just give me plain whole milk yogurt. Thank you very much. The classic way to make yogurt is to find a yogurt you like and use that for your starter. The problem is that yogurt culture is alive. And with commercial yogurt, you really don't know how long the yogurt has been sitting in warehouses, transported in trucks, and sitting on store shelves, not always under ideal conditions. By the time you get the yogurt, those poor bugs are half dead, and the yogurt tastes like it. I know this because I have used commercial yogurt a few times as starter. The yogurt sets up very reluctantly. That is, it takes much longer to set up, and the flavor is not nearly as good as when I start from powder. I strongly recommend starting from powder. This is the starter I use. Let me say right now that I start with powder, but I don't stay with powder. Once I make my first batch from powder, I then use a little bit of that yogurt to make the next batch. More about this shortly. Yogurt is milk and bugs. The third ingredient, milk powder, is strictly optional. Yogurt made only with milk is delicious, but it can be a bit thin. Some people like it that way, and especially if you plan to make drinks or salad dressing, the thinner yogurt may be exactly what you want. However, if you like a thicker, creamier yogurt, milk powder is an excellent, authentic addition. I have used both full-fat milk powder and non-fat milk powder. Both are excellent. If the milk powder comes in envelopes, you may want to use 1 envelope per half gallon of milk. If the powder comes in cans, 3/4 of a cup is about right. I use a scant cup. There is a simple yogurt equation. Yogurt equals milk plus bugs plus heat plus time. We will examine each element of this equation. Once you have chosen your milk, you must prepare it by heating it, then cooling it. In principle, you can make yogurt without heating the milk at all, but it will taste more like buttermilk than like yogurt. This is not necessarily bad, but it is not yogurt. To get yogurt, you have to break down the milk enzymes, and you do that with heat. You must heat all the milk thoroughly to at least 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I find that milk in a double boiler, water boiling for about 10 minutes, does the trick perfectly. You could put the pot of milk directly on the burner, but then you had better watch it like a hawk. Milk burns quickly and easily, and burnt milk has a powerful and very off-putting flavor. And if the milk overflows, you have a real mess on your hands. It is ever so much easier on the nerves to use a double boiler. After heating the milk, you must cool it to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or less. If you put the bugs in milk that is too hot, you will kill them. I recommend an ice bath for cooling the milk. Without an ice bath, it seems to take all day for milk to cool on its own. In an ice bath, 5 minutes is all you need. By the way, 110 degrees Fahrenheit is just a little above body temperature and pretty much the ideal temperature for baby formula. So the rule is, if the milk is too hot for a baby, it is too hot for the milk bugs. Yogurt starter usually comes as a powder in envelopes. You use the powder for the first batch, then you use some old yogurt to make new yogurt. Over time, your yogurt culture will become infected with ambient bacteria. This sounds a lot more sinister than it is. We are always surrounded by these other bugs and they pose no health risk at all. But as they start to dominate your culture, the taste of the yogurt will change. At some point, you will decide to make your next batch of yogurt from powder again. Starting from powder, I get about 10 or 12 batches of yogurt in the summer and maybe 15 or 20 batches of yogurt in the winter before I have to go back to powder. In other words, the cost of the yogurt starter per batch of yogurt is pretty much zero. So buy your starter and don't worry about the price. We use heat in two parts of the process. We have already talked about the first part in which we heat the milk on the stove. I recommend a double boiler. Set up the boiler, let the water boil for at least 10 minutes, then cool the milk in an ice bath for about 5 minutes, which is plenty of time to bring the milk below 110 degrees Fahrenheit. After inoculating the milk, we must keep the mixture at 110 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 hours, depending upon exactly how we set up the incubator. More on that shortly. After incubation, put the batch into the refrigerator for at least 8 hours or overnight. Another way to think about yogurt is this. After you prepare the milk, heat then cool, the 3-step yogurt process is inoculate, incubate, refrigerate. All 3 steps are temperature sensitive. Now let's watch how it's done. The first step is to set up the incubator. I want the incubator very nearly at operating temperature when I put the milk into it. Therefore, I run the tap until I get tepid water. I avoid water that is too warm. I want the incubator to come up to temperature, but I want it to get there fairly quickly. If you put cold water into the incubator, then you really don't know at what temperature you're starting the incubation process. And so maybe it's 2 hours, maybe it's going to be two and a half hours for incubation. It's completely out of control. In my opinion, what you want is to start at 110 degrees and you know exactly where you're starting, you know exactly what you're getting, you know exactly how long it's going to take. I'm now setting up the double boiler. I want the water to boil for at least 10 minutes. If you cover the milk, you will be sure to avoid forming a skin. I don't mind the skin, and I like to let the milk boil down even if only a little, so I leave it uncovered. As the milk gets warm, I add the milk powder, about 3/4 of a cup. The water has boiled for about 10 minutes, the milk is ready, I prepare the ice bath. I used to cool the milk with running water instead of ice. That works well, but the ice bath is easier. 5 minutes in the ice bath is plenty of time to bring the milk below 110 degrees Fahrenheit. As the milk cools, I put 2 tablespoons of old yogurt into the batch container and mix it up a bit. That will be my starter. To get completely smooth yogurt, I slowly add milk to the yogurt in the manner of making a roux. Many of you will know this process from making gravy. I add 1 tablespoon of milk, then 2, then 3, then 5, and so on in a Fibonacci series. I've never had to go above 8 tablespoons. Once the yogurt is liquidy enough, I dump the rest of the milk and stir thoroughly. Now into the incubator for almost 2 hours. I do 1 hour and 50 minutes. Note carefully that if I start from powder, I have to incubate for about 3 hours, sometimes 10 or 15 minutes more. I set my alarm for 1 hour 50 minutes. When the alarm sounds, the batch goes into the refrigerator overnight. Tomorrow, delicious yogurt. And that is how you make yogurt.